What's up? It's Zebb, and I'm the host of My Highway podcast. Today, we're kicking off season 2 with my friend, the voice winner and big machine recording artist, Danielle Bradbery. We're going to sit down and talk about her life on The Voice, how she got there, what it's like being so young in the music business, country radio, TikTok, all the social platforms, and her advice for an up and coming artist. I'm so excited to kick off the season with her as our first guest. Thanks for hanging out today.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I think this is going to be the first episode for, I call it the new season, but I took a whole break.
Yeah.
Emma, who was just in here, talked me into doing the podcast in 2020, right
Yeah.
in the beginning of
Everything.
COVID season 1, we'll call it.
Yeah, seriously.
And then we did like 8 episodes and I really decided it was time to take a break. I got a promotion at work and everything was
Good.
getting a little crazy, and so I took a break. And I think this is actually, we recorded one that's going to come out later in the month, but I think this is going to be the first one. So welcome to the
Yay.
kickoff party. What have you been up to?
Oh man, just busy 1 second and then I feel like I won't do anything for another second. I feel like that's pretty common with everyone after 2020.
I know.
So it's like kind of you have your like little phases. Personally for me, I've had my little phases where
Yeah.
there's like a little pause and then I get to going again where I'm doing a bunch of stuff. So yeah, just trying to do the new music and get all of that rolling all the
Which I love, by
time.
the way.
And thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
Are you going to roll out more singles, or do you think there's going to be a full project coming?
I'm dabbling a little bit of both right now. So I've been putting out singles. Obviously, I just recently put out a new single, and then we're also working on like a full project to go into more full projects, if that makes sense. So there's a lot going on and a lot of planning. So
Yeah,
I'm
I couldn't
excited.
believe, I was looking back at all the music because I've been a big fan of everything you've done so far,
Thanks.
and can't believe that whole project came out in 2017. It
Oh
feels
my
like
God.
it was, I mean, for you, it probably feels like a decade ago, but
It
for me, I was like, dang,
No,
I
it
remember.
does.
Yeah,
It feels like a whole lifetime ago for me sometimes. And I mean, ever since then, I've just been putting out singles.
yeah,
And I feel like that's a phase that the music industry is in right now, which
yeah,
is crazy. So it's crazy to ride that wave.
yeah. For all of you listening, if you can hear, I think Tim McGraw's rehearsing in the building behind us, so we might get a few Tim McGraw features
A
in this
little sneak
podcast.
peek behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
exactly. Well, I just wanted to hop in. I know we talked a little bit about why I do the podcast before we got on, but just talk about your story and your journey up until now. I know that's a loaded question, and we can kind of
Yeah.
take it in the first part of this. But
Yeah.
you know, you've had a really cool story, and I
Hmm.
don't want to harp on the whole voice thing because I feel like that's what every interview since The Voice has done for you. But just talk
Yeah.
about, how you got on the show. I think that's a
Hmm.
cool story, and
Yeah.
what the show taught you preparing for the industry, being so
Hmm.
young.
Yeah, it's a crazy story and I don't mind telling it over and over again because it has changed my life. It's a huge thing that happened in my life at such a young age. And so yeah, I was about to turn 16, so I was only 15 years old when the conversation started to go audition for The Voice. And my mom was actually the one that was like, "We're going." We're from Houston, Texas, and that's like a 4-hour drive. And the audition was in Dallas, so she was like, "I printed out your certificate, and we're going and auditioning for The Voice." And I was like, "Excuse me." And it's so funny because I feel like people expect me to be like, I was so excited, I was jumping for joy and everything. Well, it was actually kind of the opposite, to be fully real right now. But I was like, I started crying. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I'm so shy. Like, because all through middle school and high school, I developed just I became really shy. I like got into this shell, and school's hard. I was
Yeah,
not good in school. I'm proof that you don't have to be perfect in straight A's in school because I was not that. I was not popular. Like I knew everyone, but I was not the popular kid. I was just, I flowed through school. I was just like get me out of here.
Yeah, I was a solid 2.8 grade point average in
Oh,
college, I think. I was like, if I can talk to the teachers and bring them a good Christmas gift
right?
and fail 3 tests, do you think they'll still pass me?
That
Yeah,
that would have been
that was
me.
me, yeah.
So, yeah, and hey, school is it's wild and it's for certain people and other people struggle and I was in the struggle bus. So, yeah, it was a I got really shy and then singing was like kind of my escape and I would always go up in my room and sing and would I mean, I don't suggest this, but I would put away like homework and I would just focus on singing
Yeah.
to all my inspos like
Who were
Mariah
they? Yeah, that's what I was
Carey.
gonna
Yeah, like Mariah Carey, Carrie Underwood, all the like big vocalists. Kelly Clarkson. I always love challenging myself. So I was
yeah.
like screaming at the top of my lungs in my room. My mom's probably like, geez Louise. But yeah, that's what I did. And then she felt, the need to sign me up for The Voice because that's all she heard every single day. And
But would you
so
sing for your family, or would you just do it in your room alone?
barely. I
Yeah,
just did it in my room. And my close friends, like my best friend, would try and get me to sing. And every now and then I would. But if there was like a room full of people or there's more than five, I had to like go behind a door or turn my back or have everyone else turn their back towards me. It was
yeah,
like that real. I was
yeah.
super shy. And so when my mom was like, "We're going and auditioning for The Voice," I'm like, do you realize what that show is? I've watched it. Like, I always said, I was like, it'd be so cool to be on Team Blake. And I remember thinking that, but I never thought I'd get past that hump because of how I felt. And so my mom did that. And sure enough, we drove, and I was terrified because I had no idea anything about the music
Well, and
industry.
it was early on, right? So you probably, even though I know there's multiple steps before the live auditions, but
Oh,
did
yeah.
you had to stand in line and do the whole thing with the
I
producer in the
stood
room?
in line, what they call the cattle call. Like I feel like it was a huge convention center and it was like over 6,000 people there. And I remember we had to be there at 6 and I was there till 6 in the evening. Like it was a long day process. We were in line outside. It was not, it was really hot because we were in Texas. And we there was so much process just that little first audition. And I remember going in one of the rooms and each person would sing a verse, chorus, sit down, and there's 10 people in each room and they'd call out who got the red ticket to go just to the next step. And I was the only one in my room and I'm like, I don't know what this means, but great. And then yeah, there's like three auditions before the actual chair turn audition. There's a lot that goes to it. And The Voice, they have such a cool system and everybody there were so amazing. And I mean through that whole thing, I mean my just that second audition, I messed up. I forgot my words. I brought in a bunch of like mature songs like Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood, and she actually one of the producers, she was like, do you know any Taylor Swift? Like any,
Something younger?
younger? And I was like, no, I was already scared, so scared. And
Yeah,
so her stopping me doing that whole thing, I was like, oh my God, I did something wrong. I immediately like felt the tears coming. And she's like, I'm going to do this for you. She goes, go back, learn Mean by Taylor Swift and tell them I sent you back and you can come in line and do this again. And it was like the taping part where they send to LA. And I was like, okay. And I walked out. I remember the floodgates just came, and it was just everything, emotion. And sure enough, I went back and learned it. Went back and got the call, and just every step continued. And then that ended up being my blind audition song was
yeah.
"Mean" by Taylor Swift. So it's a crazy process. My mom came with me. I was a minor and she was with me through that whole thing and she had to leave my two younger brothers at the time and it's just a hard process for her. She risked a lot. She stopped her job and just everything not knowing how far. So there was a lot of turning points for both of us and just the whole family. And it's just crazy to think about and go back and I'm like, how did I even do that?
Yeah. Probably still, like, I mean, it's in your memory, but it's probably feels so long ago now. It's like, what the
It
heck was
is
I
a
really doing?
yeah,
But talk
yeah.
about a metaphor for the music business, like
Oh my
being
god.
told you have to do something different, right? And then going back and learning it, and then it becoming like the voice for you. Like that was your intro to the voice was that song. I feel
Yeah.
like that's every day working on the publishing side and artist development side. It's like, yeah, you see that in a young artist, you
Mhm.
see the potential there and you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to uncover that because they
Yeah.
grow up. I mean, you grow up listening to those
Yeah.
female artists because you could hit those notes, right? So it was like that's
Exactly.
what you wanted to sing, but really they wanted you to be more youthful. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely a process, and the voice was, I always say it was like a boot camp for what I was getting myself into, and it definitely took me to that whole other like 5 steps ahead of my confidence. I did not have any of what I did from day 1 to the day I won. I was like a completely different person.
Well, the camera probably didn't even phase you by that point, right?
No. And I'm like, "How?" And I learned every step of the way from going into wardrobe, dealing with wardrobe people. I had never done that. Dealing with hair and makeup, dealing with an interview with all the lights and the camera. I'm like, this is all everything was so new to me. And I wasn't your typical coming to Nashville playing on Broadway. I was, at home in Texas. I was watching the award shows and everything from my TV,
Yeah.
but I was so shy, and it's different for everybody. And I feel like it's a unique story, but I mean, it's worth telling because it's just, you can do it whether you're shy and no matter where you come from. And yeah, the voice definitely prepped me for so much, like confidence level and everything. I mean, the list goes on.
Talk about the fan, right? So coming from someone who only sang in their room,
Mhm.
now all of a sudden you have social media, they're pushing you on the show. Were they putting the social handles on the show at that point
Yeah.
already? So now
Mhm.
you have socials that they're pushing.
Yeah.
So obviously your fan base and your social following probably more than quadrupled from the show.
Yeah.
How did you handle that mentally? Like what was that like with you and your family?
I feel like in the beginning, I almost felt like I was numb to it. Like I didn't register or adjust to it right away. Because I remember we had my blind audition viewing party at my best friend Haley's house in Texas, and all my friends, everyone, my whole family, everyone came, and like the news station came, and it was just a really cool moment for everybody. But I remember that day we all crowded around my phone, and as soon as my blind audition aired, I kid you not, it was like clockwork. As soon as my thing went, my notifications at the time of Instagram and all that
Yeah.
stuff were on. It was like skipping. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Everyone
And
following you.
everyone was I remember my phone was on the island in the kitchen, and all my friends we were like, "What is happening?" 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone was following, everyone was posting, all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I was just like, "This is crazy." And I didn't, it takes me a minute to adjust to all
Yeah.
of that. And I think I have it's honestly a little bit tougher to adjust to now at this age.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that worked personally for me
Yeah.
because it was such a whirlwind. Everything was going so fast.
Yeah.
And so once I got to sit down and be like, "Oh, this is my life, and I have this X amount of followers, and this I have fans and like a true fan base." And it's just a wild thing to
Yeah.
think about.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was any downtime for you from winning The Voice to moving to Nashville? And I know I mean, you came off The Voice with a record deal, right? That's
Hmm.
part of the thing. So
Yeah.
the downtime there from like moving to town, you had to do all of that too, right? Did you instantly move to Nashville or did you hang and wait with the
Yeah.
family? Like what was that like?
So, a little bit back to The Voice, so once I won, I literally walked off stage with the trophy in my hand. Like I had like this little clip in my hair that was like half falling because I was like crying and there's confetti still in my hair. And I remember walking off the stage, and there was my record label, there was my management at the time, and they just down the line, I just shook my hand. I had no idea who these people were. I was like, I barely even knew. I'm like, "Oh, a record. Okay, okay, record label, whatever." So I literally walked off into their hands, and I'm like introducing myself to these people. They walk aside, go talk to my mom. They immediately put me in a van to go to the other studio on Universal set to go do interviews with the trophy still in my hand. I mean, it was like bam, bam,
So
bam, bam, bam.
did you have management representing you before, like, once you started The Voice, did you find a manager throughout the show? Because I know that's not publicized, but some
Yeah.
artists have a team, or did you meet them
So
that night?
I met them that night. I didn't have anybody until the second I stepped off stage after I won. And a lot of that process came about behind the scenes. Blake, who the team I was on, he was actually a huge part behind the scenes and creating my team. I was so young, and he was kind of like a dad figure to me at the
Yeah.
time. And he actually met with managers, and he met with these people and was like, I think they would be good for her. And he was a part of that process, which I haven't really talked about really, because it's just a crazy thing to think about, and I kind of forget sometimes where, but he was a huge process about that. And so yeah, I walked off into the team. And so, but we immediately flew to New York from LA. It's not a short flight. And I was on the Today Show. I sang my first single, Heart of Dixie, where I got like maybe a few days before that. So I met the band there. I mean, Whirlwind. And
The next
so
morning, you were on American or
so I
on
was the
today.
next morning we flew. We flew there, and then we had to wake up around like 3 or 4 to get glam and everything. And we were on the plaza in the Good Morning show in New York. And so I'm like, this is my mom puts this on TV like every morning, and now I'm here singing my new single with this band I've never met before.
So
Usually you have
crazy.
rehearsals and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just such a, I mean, literally whirlwind. I can't explain it anywhere else. But yeah, we did that. Immediately flew here. My mom and my stepdad were with me um, to meet with teams like my business manager and my publishing and everything. And I'm sitting in there and I'm like, I don't even, I'm still trying to catch up what I did a week ago. I'm still thinking about that. And while we're in the meeting, trying to get my team, my booking agent, and I hadn't lived here yet. Me and my mom were posted up at the Lowe's Hotel in
Yeah.
Midtown, and that's where we went. We stayed every time we came here. And so we'd go back and forth from Houston to Nashville. And just, I mean, crazy, bouncing around like crazy and all that stuff. And so they were a huge part of that. And I had my team. And then finally at 18, I moved here by myself.
Oh, yeah, because you still had school to finish and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I did online schooling at The Voice.
Mm.
And there was a lot of minors on my season. It was crazy because by the end of it, by the last finale show, I was the only one in my little class. Still had to go to school on like live show day. And I'm like,
Wow.
I can't think about any of this right now. I have like 7 songs to sing on live TV in 2 hours. So, yeah, I did homeschooling there on the show, and then just kind of continued. And I never went back to high school. I never did college, and just did the industry
Yeah.
route.
It's crazy.
Craziness.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
moved here at 18.
Yeah.
By then you had Heart of Dixie out. Was
hmm
there any other music that was out at that point?
So we put Heart of Dixie out, and then at the time, I hadn't written music at all.
I was gonna ask, like, you were singing, but were you writing at a
I
young
was
age?
singing, but I did not write. And I hadn't really written by myself at all. And I remember my manager presented all these outside songs to me, and I've had to pick like 12. And I was like, I don't even know. And I picked the ones that I loved. And then sure enough, we had created an album. We went in, recorded that with Dan Huff. And so I don't think I lived here yet still. So I was doing all that after, you know, Heart of Dixie was out. And then we promoted the album. And then I immediately went on Brad Paisley tour with
Wow.
Chris Young. That was my first tour.
Talk about, like, just skyrocket to, I mean, that's
It
crazy.
was, yeah. And I just, I didn't know anything about creating a band and doing band rehearsal and creating a set and all that stuff, I was still coasting on, the voice covers I did and the new songs that I had put out. And people were so, the voice covers, maybe it was Memphis and all these like big older country songs. And I'm still this 17, 18-year old. And back to what you said about, creating an artist out of someone so young and out of all these other songs I was singing, it's like, it was such a whirlwind that I didn't even know who really I was, and I was singing all these other people's songs, and it's a weird battle. And the label, had issues with it. My management had issues with it. I had issues, when someone would ask me like, "Who's Danielle Bradbery? Like, who do you think that artist is?" I'm like, "I know what I like, and I know what I think I know what I like." But it was such a huge topic of conversation for so long. And then, the break that you're talking about, after I did my first record, did the tour, and I had been on a few tours after that, Hunter Hayes, Dan and Shay. And I did Scott and McCreery, and I like all these amazing tours. And then I I think that's when we took a break after all the tours and did the first record, kind of promoted. Then there's like this silence. And then I was like, okay, what's going on? I was like,
But that whole record was all those songs that you listened to and picked. So all you still hadn't really wrote at all.
no, no.
Wow.
So then came this like stop. And me and management, like we were just trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step? And there was just this pause. And it's kind of like this last record. There was like a 3 to 4 year gap. And I was like, what's going on? Like, why am I not releasing music or whatever? I was frustrated. I really didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, and I'm really close with my mom, my family, and so she's always encouraging me. And a big part of what she said at the time, and still, she was like, I really do feel like this time is for you to just sit here and figure out who you are. Because she was like, and she still asks me this. She's like, what if you kept going like a Justin Bieber? What if you kept going and kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Would you be able to handle that? And I was like, probably not. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I was so young and nothing before that had catching up to me yet. And so if I would have kept going, you'd never know where that mental state would have ended up. So there's that gap in between albums that now I'm very grateful for. And that's the break that I got into writing for the first time. That's when my management was like, have you ever thought of writing? Do you want to just see? And I was super nervous about it, like getting in the room with these top liner songwriters that wrote some of my all time favorite songs. You're like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, I don't know. I have to talk to y'all about some of my secrets. Like, it was a weird, I didn't know. I didn't know how to write a song. And my first write was Ashley Gorley and Caitlin Smith.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Ever, by the way.
Wow.
And so they were sweet, so sweet, because they knew like this girl, this is a newbie. And so they were very patient with me. And my first couple of writes looked a lot like that. So I think my second write ever was Maren Morris, and when she was writing at the time. So it was a lot to grasp, and I got a lot of weird songs through that journey, but I eventually got it under my belt. And a year or two later, I was like, oh, okay.
These are my people.
I went through, yes, these are my people. I can tell them my secrets and really cool stuff that everyone in life goes through, and it becomes a song. I was figuring out the
Yeah.
really amazing way about it. And then I was going through a really toxic relationship, and it was just all falling out in the writing room. And it was like another therapy session. And we were creating finally that voice of mine that I was looking for after all these years. And so it really helped me, that break, writing music, everything helped me become, the start of who I am now. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, and I think
crazy.
that's something that we have a few young writers here at the office, and That's one of the things that I say is like as much as the publishing side of me wants to be like, hey, let's throw them in with the biggest writers we can. Sometimes I feel like they have to write with their peers first
Mhm.
to build that confidence to be able to talk about the things that
Yeah,
actually produces great songs.
it's
So that's
nerve-wracking.
crazy. I mean, that's what everyone wants to do with the young artists that they see the potential in is like, let's throw them in the with the writers that can write the hits. And I think that that's what's so crazy to me, and I might be jumping forward because I wanted to talk about your family and stuff, but, that's what's so crazy to me is looking at just your Spotify, as a viewer, you can see your Spotify numbers. We can't see Apple or any of the other ones, but your streams are unreal for the I don't wanna say the lack of radio success, but I feel like I
I mean,
wish
it's
that
true.
I feel like the songs that you have out should be huge radio songs.
Thank you.
And to see the amount of streams but not convert to radio, I feel like that's where the culture of our music
It
is going,
is.
and you're kind of ahead of the curve. Like, you've been doing this for so long, but yet you're still the age that most girls in Nashville are getting their break or starting to find a publishing deal or a record deal.
Mhm.
So, you're really not behind. You've actually had a lot more experience, and I feel like it's gotta be frustrating to you because as a young artist, everyone wants, like, "I want big number ones, and I want this and that," and it's like, you've got all the tours, you've got all the big rights, you've had the TV success, and it's like, I feel like that's the only thing that still I feel like should have happened for you, but looking at the streams, it's like you have more streams than number 1 songs on the radio, so how does that like, how do you wrap your head around that every day?
I think I'm currently trying to wrap my head around it because it's a topic of conversation with management and with behind the scenes, like my team and everything. It's like, look at these numbers, y'all. And after a while, for me, I'm like, I have the same thought. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I haven't had a number one on radio. I'm still, I have my questions there, but yet my numbers are showing otherwise. It's a weird, and like I said in the beginning, it's like this weird like transition and flow that the industry is dealing with right now.
But see, it's such a perception, right? Because to everyone else outside of the industry,
Right.
you're hugely successful. But
Hmm.
to us internally, we get our mindset on something like what does success in country look like? Like
Right.
for a pop artist, success on radio is it might happen, but
Yeah.
radio is really not huge in the pop world
Yeah.
anymore. So to them, like the streams is success. But for us, it's
Hmm.
like when we look at radio, and that's the conversation I have every day with young artists is like, success, what does that mean to you? Because that's something that you really have to wrap your head around as a young artist is like, you are hugely successful, but
Hmm.
it's not in the success that you might have thought it would have been at 18. And so that's what I actually was not going to talk about radio at all. And I jumped right in
It's
because
okay.
it's just something that, I was looking at as like someone in the industry and was like,
Hmm.
this is crazy to me. Like, I think that should it have happened? Probably. But I think the future for you is going to be a lot more of where we're going with the
Hmm.
culture of country music, and I think that
Yeah.
you're ahead of the curve, so putting out more music and building those streams and finding ways to use your platforms to do that, you know, I wanted to talk about the social platforms a little bit, like
Yeah.
TikTok and all of
Yeah.
those things because, much like you had the success with The Voice, I think that there's a lot of young
Hmm.
artists who are getting a lot of things happening for them because of TikTok or social
Seriously.
media and talk about not knowing how to write a song or, not really getting their feet wet. Like, do
Hmm.
you think that compares now to like kind of like what you went through on The Voice?
Um, yeah, it's yes, and there's like so many things you can look or so many ways you can look at it. Like I'm 25 years old and I feel like I'm so much older than I really am because I had to grow up really fast. Um, but I got to see the industry in the world before TikTok. And it's like a weird thing to be in the middle of because yeah, TikTok is this like new, it's almost like a label in itself. It's crazy how many people and kids that are getting record deals and getting so many things from TikTok. And yeah, I don't know. I'm like props to you because I can't even it's hard. TikTok's hard for me. And
Yeah.
it's like a weird not weird, but just crazy like phase of kids or like this age now, and I'm like right in the middle. It's weird. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm still trying to wrap
Well,
my head
and I
around
mean,
it.
me too. But here's the funny part is like, I'll be the first one to lay in bed until after midnight, just
Oh, same.
swiping on TikTok, like
Same.
laughing at all the trends and all the
Yes.
things. But then, I'm also the first one to be like, well, I don't know if if they're a real artist or they just
Yeah.
sing great covers.
Yeah.
Like I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was talking about it was a fan, a lady who was a big fan of music artist,
Mhm.
and she was like telling the artist like stop deleting TikToks that don't work. Like we want to see as young artists or young people getting in the business, we want to see that not everything pops off for you. Like that we're
Wow.
struggling because we feel like looking at an artist page, everything has millions of views or thousands of views, but
Mhm.
we're going to learn from what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge moment for me because it was like, well, I tell our artists not to delete stuff, but the first thing everyone wants to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I even went through this phase in college where when Instagram was a new thing, it was like I post a photo and it doesn't get enough likes. Well, I'm going
Right?
to delete it,
Yeah.
or whatever it looks like. And so I feel like that was a question that I wanted to ask you was like, have you had content that didn't work?
Mhm.
Obviously, we all have, right? Content that didn't work or a TikTok that didn't work, and did you delete it and did you put it back up and have success? Like,
For sure.
what? How do you handle that? Because I know that
Yeah.
it's a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in a position where I've taken something down. But with TikTok, we've actually have everything up and people could go back now and see that some of my singing videos, and I do this new thing we can talk about later, is stairwell sessions, um, where I go in a stairwell and sing a cappella covers, and I post singing videos and they won't even get half of the views and likes. And then I'll post something about my boyfriend and my dog, and that gets like almost a million.
So funny story. Jameson Rogers is here on the label, and he's been posting videos of all his new music and
Yeah.
demos and everything. And we've been on him about TikTok and content. And then the other day they went on a hunting trip, him and Hardy and Smith Onquist,
Mhm.
and they did a prank on Smith who fell asleep. They put a deer mount across the pond on a tree while he was sleeping, and then they woke him up and told him
Like,
there was a big
dude.
buck. And like the video looking at it is very like iPhone, like somebody's walking around
Yeah.
videoing it, but it has like millions of views on
And
TikTok,
you're
but it's
like,
not his music.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's real.
that kind of stuff.
And I absolutely have videos up now, and we just kind of we leave it up. I don't really. I've kind of like let that go out of my mind, and
Yeah.
there's proof there that some half of my videos, some like content that I've taken for my like stop dragging your boots video or for my music have not gotten barely anything. And then the lifestyle ones will get double. So it's just it's a funny game. And I feel
It
like
is.
once you find your pocket, then you're good to go. But it's yeah, some of my stuff
And I
won't do
think that's a
anything.
perfect example of why you have to do all of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like having tools in your toolbox,
Mhm.
right? It's like you can't just be a TikTok artist. You
Yeah.
can, but it's gonna
Mhm.
be short-lived.
Yeah.
Or you can't just be I know when Facebook had the algorithms, there was a lot of young artists that would do covers and stuff on Facebook that it exploded, and the ones who
Yeah.
are now making it in Nashville capitalized on that following and pushed them elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why it's so important to everyone's gonna have their favorite platform, or they're gonna
For
their
sure.
their favorite's gonna be writing or in the studio. And I think that it's just important to be able to do all those things
Yeah.
because we're not all going to be able to pop
No.
off on everything.
No, and I'm an artist to say I struggle with posting on TikTok because all I want to do is scroll and laugh at everybody else's videos, but once it comes to and I know I'm not the only one, but my day-to-day being like, "Hey, you got to post a TikTok." I'm like, "Oh yeah." Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just, finding your groove and which I'm currently literally doing right now is just finding my groove, finding my pocket, and trying to do more lifestyle personality videos because I don't think about doing it, and it's a real thing. So
Well, let's talk about your family for a minute. I know
yeah,
that your family is close to you, and you were talking about your mom earlier.
yeah. My definitely been blessed and can say I'm very close with my family. And we've been through a lot together, even before The Voice. And just, we lived a normal life before The Voice. And um, at the age of 4, I believe, my parents divorced. And another blessed thing I can say is they get along still to this day, which is amazing. Like I said, we just are a very strong, connected family, and we have a lot of faith, and that's just us. And my mom and my mom is super, like, that's always been her way through life, is just don't put up with anything. It's very that Hispanic,
Yeah.
like, spiciness, and she's always been that way. And my dad is like the more chill, like, country, laid back. And but it's a cool combo that I guess have, me, my sister. So I have an older sister and 3 younger brothers, and all from my sisters, my mom and dad. And then my dad and my stepmom got pregnant, younger brother. And then my mom and my stepdad had 2 younger brothers. It's like all scattered. I have to, like, wrap my finger around it. But it's a big family, and we have a fun time.
Yeah, but how do they, like your younger siblings, how do they deal with you living in Nashville and doing music? Like, is it something that they brag about, or like, are they like
They're
too cool for you?
they're funny because here and there they'll bring it up, or like my 10-year-old brother, he'll like say to his teacher, "Well, my sister can sing," and I, like, shows her, like, videos and stuff. And just very, but they're also very under the table. Like, they're super chill, and they just kind of, like, do their own thing. And I have another 10-year-old brother, and he kind of does the same thing with his teachers and all that stuff. And then my other brother's 18, and he plays football at Colorado State. And he has his own thing. He's like, I'm gonna become the football player, and I'm gonna be like, it's okay, I'll buy you stuff one day and all that stuff. I'm
Funny.
like, okay, Drake. And so they're pretty, like, my sister. She's like a proud mom. She's 30, and but they're, like, pretty tame about it. They're
Love it.
super chill, and they, like, have their own little thing. I'm like, hey, that's fine. It
That's
humbles
cool.
me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being a young woman in the business, I think that's one thing that the artists sometimes forget early on, is that they're in charge of their business, and like their direction and who they are is what they should drive.
Yeah.
How is handling business even at 25,
Yeah.
with a team full of people who have probably been in the business half of our life,
Seriously.
before us, like how uncomfortable was that, and how do you handle that?
Um, it's definitely a learning. Like, I've learned more than I ever thought I would in my life. And coming into this at such a young age, and I come from, like, my family is super, like, business heady. And, like, my great grandmother owned several Mexican restaurants in Houston. And, like, we're very entrepreneur, like, just embedded. And so it's in there. And I'm, like, tapping into that more and more as I grow up and more as I learn. But yeah, starting at a young age and just dealing with the whole process, and it can be dirty, and it can be cutthroat at times. And that's all real. And especially being a younger girl at the time, and it's like, okay, I need to find my voice again. And for me personally, again, I was so shy, trying to find my voice and trying to stick up for myself. And this little blonde girl coming in, I mean, people aren't gonna, realistically, some don't really take you that serious, and some haven't. And I've gotten looked in the face, and just, I'm like, oh, so you're not taking me seriously at all right now. But it's a learning curve, and it's something I've, you know taken a hold on, and brought with me now. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to please everyone, but it's just going to make me stronger, and I need to have a stronger backbone in this industry. And yeah, throughout the years, and even now, it's a it's a battle for sure. You go head to head sometimes, and you just have to find your way. And again, starting out young and finding your voice and finding out who you are as an artist, and for any other younger artists, whoever you are, I've always said, I'm like, please don't let people encourage you to be someone you're not, because I almost fell into that with coming off The Voice, singing other people's music, and I didn't know who I was. So it was very easy to like, hey, put this on.
Yeah.
Hey, sing this. Hey, say this. Like it
Yeah.
was, I came very close to falling in a lot of traps. And sometimes I had to. Sometimes I, you know, had to put that on or sing that song that I maybe wasn't a huge fan of. But eventually I'm like, okay, I need to, again, find my voice and really dig down to who Danielle Bradbery is, and voice that and really stick to my guns and do that. And my thing is like I don't like to do what really everyone else is doing. I like having my own path, and I have so many different ideas even outside of music. And I've tried, and I'm still like sticking to that, and I'm not going to budge. And like you just have to have that one thing about yourself that you just want to be like, okay, if anything, this is going to be who I am
It's my
as an
non-negotiable.
artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hold on to that, because it's so easy to get persuaded and like molded into this thing. And I get you have to do your thing sometimes, but like, just if I had any advice, is just hold on to
Yeah.
your inner child.
And I think that's the thing is a lot of young artists are just grateful at first, right? You took a
For
risk on
sure.
me, like you signed me.
Yeah,
I'm thankful that you're investing money and time into what I'm doing.
for
And
sure.
but then there comes a point where it's like, okay, also though, if I'm going to be who I want to
Mhm.
be and look back in 10 years and say, this is what I love and this is why I did this, I'm
Yeah.
going to have to stand up and say
Yeah.
what I believe now. And so I
Yeah.
think that's a hard balance to walk.
It
So that was a
is.
great answer.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that in my listening of stuff that you've done, I know you're not a big goal setter. You're very much in the moment type person, which is a lot of artists, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I think that your team normally sets the goals and they just kind of drive you right in the
Yeah.
direction. So what's in the moment for Danielle right now? What are you um
Yeah.
planning for or working on, or what's like the vision that maybe isn't out yet?
For sure. And I have manifestations, and those can be goals and everything, but I am very in the moment person. And I, just looking back at the map of my life and myself, I'm like, I have changed so much just over 1 year. Like, and it's coming up 9, 10 years since I won The Voice. And I'm like, I cannot believe that. It's so long, such a lifetime ago. And I have changed so much, and I'm still like evolving into like things I like and the style I like and everything. So it's very, so when someone asks me, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I hope I have these key things, but then, we're all changing, and our likes and loves for things are always changing into bigger, better things, hopefully. So, yeah, in the moment for me, I'm just, you know, I'm I have this vision of, doing more with style, fashion things, and I'm currently doing new music and going hopefully to do an album and everything. And I'm really tapping into, like I said, the fashion world and everything. So I'm hoping that can lead me to something bigger.
Is
So,
it same producer now as the beginning, or have you
um,
changed up the sound?
I've changed up a little bit. My last two singles have been Nathan Chapman, who
I love
is
Nathan.
incredible.
Yeah,
He is, and I did it in a different way than I did Dan. We went in the studio and did a lot with Dan, and I was there, and with Nathan, a lot of COVID stuff happened, so I wasn't able to be there for the like band tracking stuff. So that was a little interesting. But then once it came to recording, I was in there just me and Nathan. And I love doing it that way. I love when it's just stripped down. We can kind of just feed off of each other. And I felt more comfortable that way. And So it was a different way to do it then. And so, but now he might be involved with some of the next stuff, but we're also, looking at other people. And I've even mentioned doing somebody that no one has really heard before, like a producer. And I feel like they are just as great. And so I'm dipping my toes into stuff like that
When I
now.
think we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I think, it's the change and evolve of you as an artist. It's not a bad thing. I think that that is the cool part is like somebody who is here now being a young producer might not have been here when you were 17, or you're finding a different sound that you love and in a direction that you're wanting to go. And I think that that's one thing too that I want people who are listening to take home, especially if they're in the business, is like change and evolving is natural.
Yeah.
And it's like you're going to change producers, your team has changed, you have
Yeah.
different people on your team, and it's not necessarily because they're good or bad. It's just that your vision and what maybe they thought they were signing up for at the time, like as someone working in the business, you can't help but have your own vision of an artist when you sign them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this person's really cool, but I see this potential and we can chase this. And then once you get in and start doing it, that might be one of their non-negotiables. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a good point to be made is like just because you're changing doesn't mean that it's a bad thing.
Yeah. And I've had to learn that myself because, again, for a very long time, a lot of this has been so new to me and first timers. Like, I, not even just switching producers, and Josh Kerr was one of them for my last record. Like, I bounced around a few times, and even producers collabed on my stuff. Like, Emily Wise band helped me do vocal producing, and she was a big part of that writing process. And it's just like finding your groove. And then, I changed managements, not like right at the beginning of COVID. I mean, that was weird. Like, that was a really like whirlwind moment for me because I mean, no one was doing anything. And then I was like, I have this new management and they don't even know, where to start because everything is shut down. That was crazy. But yeah, I changed because, you know, from all the way back to The Voice, again, I am such a different person now. And I love my last management to death. I still talk to them to this day, and they still post about my new music. Like, you can still, there's no grudges. Like, and I'm sorry if there is for anybody else, but like there is change, and I was terrified. I really was, and that's real. But you have to do it, and I'm learning that.
Well, I think funny enough, now that you said that, I think we were at Whiskey Jam together one night and you were playing and you didn't have management.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening, Danielle still gets nervous before she plays. I think you hadn't played in a long
I
time. And I
haven't.
was just like, I'll stand here with you. Like, it's all good. Like, and
Yes.
you were like, I haven't played in front of people in forever. But that's funny that you were going through that then. The new management might have been there. I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly I don't.
That's fun. But that was right before COVID, I
It
think.
was right before
Yeah.
COVID.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I had just done Shallow with Parker, and I think
Yeah,
Parker was playing that
I
night.
think so too. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I still get super nervous.
Well, and yeah, real quick, talk about the covers because for me that's some of my favorite stuff that you've done is the Stairwell covers, but also the covers that are on YouTube
Yeah.
of like pop songs and stuff. And so
Yeah.
talk about your Stairwell sessions and how you've been doing
Yeah.
that.
I have came to found a love of doing covers, but in all different ways because I was like, okay, if people are gonna, bring up The Voice, and that's gonna be a huge part of me for the rest of my life, and I feel like there's a way to bring that into my everyday life now because that's what I was doing on the show is taking other people's songs, making it my own, and selling myself off as Danielle Bradbery, but I'm also singing these other people. I was doing covers the whole
Yeah.
time. That's what you do. And so I got so used to doing that and creating my own little versions and working with the people behind the scenes to do a high note here and all that stuff. I was already doing all that. So over the years, I was doing these sessions where I do covers of these R&B songs or pop songs or country songs. I've done them for a while now, and it's a fun, cool part of me that I've been able to continue and people enjoy. And or they're used to seeing me do that. So it was something that I've found where I'm like, okay, this is something that works,
Yeah.
and people enjoy, and I enjoy it too. And yeah, I've done the YouTube sessions, and I've taken rap songs and made them into ballads like Psycho by Post Malone. And it's just super fun. And then I did the Stairwell sessions, what I'm doing now, and just singing a cappella. And because I am one to say I don't really know how to play piano, I don't really know how to play guitar. So I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to be like all these other artists that sit there and can play their songs in these covers, I can just use my voice, my
Uh,
only instrument. And
yeah.
I want to learn piano and everything, and that's definitely my next step. But it, I'm just trying to use what I have right now, and that's what came about with Stairwell sessions. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do something different and sing just by myself with nothing. And so far, so good.
Awesome. Well, I love it. It's one of my favorite things
Thank
that you do.
you.
And we'll go ahead and wrap, but a few things that I wanted to ask you before we go is just one, what do you think the most valuable asset to have is as an artist?
Mm. Oh gosh. I don't know. Valuable
I
asset.
think you kind of already said it. I'm not going to answer it for you, but I am. I think that you've talked a lot about your voice and being able to stay like have a voice as an
Yeah.
artist. And I think for you, that's what you're growing to, right?
Yeah.
Is having a voice
Yeah, I think
beyond the music.
definitely. I mean, I feel like I've always preached about that, and I still do. And it's something that I preach about to myself behind closed doors. It's something that I talk to with about my family. Like my mom calls me almost every day about stuff like that. My dad does too. And it's yeah, so I think your voice is definitely one of the highest priorities. And I feel like if you lose that or lose sight of that, it can be really difficult. And it's easy to go the opposite way or go down a road that you're not too happy about, or it could turn into many different things. So yeah, I think finding your voice and holding on to that and staying true to yourself and just I don't know. That's been super important to me, and I've really it's something that I hold to myself that I can wake up every day and be like, I'm really proud of this, and I can say it's mine, because it's my voice. It's something that I've created. It's my name. It's me, and I've been able to take care of it in a little box. And so I feel like yeah, if I had any advice or if that's the important thing, it's just sticking true to that and having conversations with whoever it is, therapist, family, friend, whoever's close to you, partner, I mean, team, anybody. It's just having that constant conversation about, okay, let's reel it back into to me, to whoever name, It's like reeling it back in for a second. So I feel like that's really important.
Nice.
Yeah.
And lastly, for all of the fans listening, can you describe what the new music's gonna sound like?
um so yeah, I mean, I love all different types of music. I feel like that's been very clear. I've put out a Spanish song, I've put out pop music, country, everything. And I'm not going to shy away from that because I put out music that I just truly care and love to create. And that's my genre, I feel like. So after putting out Break My Heart Again, I feel like that sound and that feel is very much what I kind of want to continue with. I'm not going to stray away from, my core country and storytelling ever. So it's a combo. It's a combo of that, authentic storytelling, but a little bit of like R&B pop era. If I could explain it, I don't know.
Well, we're here for it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited and thank you for hanging out today. It
Yeah,
was really
thank
fun.
you.
And actually, we went on a whole journey I didn't even know we were going to go on
Yeah,
talking. So thank you.
love it.